case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
We are guest-free, at least for now, the rest of this afternoon's program. Lots of good subjects to explore before we are indeed done. Top 5 at 5 first, though.
It's a basketball doubleheader right here on the Fan tonight. Your red-hot Minnesota men's basketball team that's won 2 games in a row with 2 players has a bit of a challenge tonight. They are on the road in Chrysler Center to take on number 3, Michigan. Number 3, Michigan. That will follow us at about 7 o'clock tonight. The coverage starts, and that will go right into Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. I'm guessing in progress. It'll always be on the Timberwolves channel of your iHeartRadio app, but it's that's what's going on there. And Naz Reid is available tonight. So if the Wolves lose to Portland, they will not be able to blame the fact that Rudy Gobert did not play because he's back off his 1-game suspension. And Naz Reid is available after missing the last game against Philly on Sunday with right shoulder soreness. He is available. So it is a full deck for your Minnesota Timberwolves. And as I pull up the standings, which, as you know, I watch every single day, because everybody loses. You know, even the good teams, Dan, they lose.
They always do.
They lose games.
Yes.
The Wolves are in the 6th spot, still tied with the Lakers. They are percentage points behind the Lakers. That's why somebody has a game in hand. I'm not going to do the math, but we are a game out of the 4 spot, game out of the 3 spot. That's how close things are. So just think.
Very bunched together.
Just think if we could knock off some of these teams like Philly at home, what that might mean.
3-game road trip, I believe. And on paper, this would be the most favorable matchup, right? Who's the second
I might say the Clippers. Clippers are behind them in the standings.
Yeah, but Clippers are better than Portland.
I mean, Portland's ahead of them.
Are they really?
Yeah, not by much. They're 9 and 10.
Forgive me. I've not been paying attention to the current position, the Portland Trailblazers. I got to give them a little more credit.
They've been pretty scrappy.
Okay.
They're 28
and then the third
30.
game is Denver.
Yes, in Denver.
That's the one in Denver. You said it was an afternoon game. What is that, over the weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah. You've lost the excuse regarding the people who are out. Although Johnny reminded us yesterday that it is double secret probation now for the rest of the regular season on Rudy, because now he starts missing 2 games, and that's a little on the scary side. And by the way, all it takes is a flagrant 1. Yeah, he reminded us as well.
Which obviously he knows how to get. Because he starts flailing around and then he gets mad.
Yeah, I know. That's it. So that's going to be a sneaky subject. A year ago was, the Ant's technical fouls.
Right.
Now that's kind of been eliminated. I don't even think he's close. Is he on technicals?
No, I don't think he is.
Certainly hasn't been as much of a storyline as it was a year ago, to his credit. But now you got the Rudy issue on flagrants, which is a problem for sure.
Ian Cunningham, he's the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. He informed our guy, Kirk Cousins, that they will release him on the first day of the league year. Shefty, 2 weeks ago, said that's the expectation, and Cunningham today said, yeah, we've already told him that. We told him, he's going to be able to start looking. I'm paraphrasing. First day of the league year, by the way, is March 11th. Is he the guy? As we get to the Kevin O'Connell comments that basically everything's on the table, and Rob Brzezinski saying everything's on the table for 2026.
Does Atlanta have a sports zoo or a station that's all sports all the time?
Well, Cunningham said these comments on 92.9 The Game.
The Game, not the zoo.
Not the zoo, The Game. They may have a zoo as well, not the Zone, not the sports animal, but 92.9 The Game.
Help me out on this math. So, 2 off seasons ago, they broke the bank to bring Kirk Cousins in to be their quarterback, correct?
Yes.
And the first season, and then they turn around and drafted Michael Penix.
Yes.
And almost immediately putting Cousins on the clock, right? Eventually he gets benched in his first year there, right?
Yep.
And then he gets injured, right? He gets the, he didn't get hurt. He just is still in recovery.
He came back off the injury, yeah.
So, and then last year, they the backup until they went to him late I'm just thinking in the grand scheme of things regarding, decision making. How do you go from saying we're breaking the bank to get this guy, this is our guy, and 2 years later, unceremoniously, you're dumping him for nothing, and I'm assuming still having to deal with the costs associated with that contract from a dead cap issue. Has there been a bigger disaster? Well, I guess Russell Wilson was a bigger disaster, you could say, right, in Denver.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big swing and miss on a quarterback.
Which is why...
over in almost no time.
Which is why Cunningham is the Falcons' new general manager, right? He just got the job in January.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why he's the new general manager. The old guy was let go. I'm assuming in part
he didn't
because
survive.
of that.
Yeah, I would think that'd be 80% of it right there.
Yeah.
I look back on that, and it's stunning when you think about it. I never thought, I know he had some good moments here, but I never thought he was worth that kind of contract at all. But it shows you just the lack of conviction when you do it, and almost immediately you're second guessing it, and you're putting him on the bench, in part because you handed the coach an easy answer to play at the quarterback position, making it less likely that you would play the thing out with him. And after the next year, he's gone. The whole thing. I don't think he's going to have to worry about a statue in Atlanta.
No, well, that contract off of that injury, too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
Absolutely.
why when I remember, because I was listening to Sauce and Nordo that day, they were in for comment, and Alec Lewis was actually on. And as Alec was on, he mentioned that Mike McCarthy, I can't remember which one, is Cousins' agent, tweeted out, congrats to Kirk Cousins, 4 years, 160, whatever it was. And everybody was like, well, yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that coming off the injury. I then remembered a week or two later being in the Atlanta airport on my way to the Masters. Oh, good for me. Going up the escalator, and it's a huge Donald Trump-like mural of number 18, Kirk Cousins.
They
just
milked
greeting.
it. Yeah.
They milked it. They had the pictures with the chains. And you mentioned it 6 weeks later, they draft Michael Penix. But that contract off that injury just made no sense. And that's why the Vikings didn't do it.
Well, here's the other thing. A few people know this. They even bought for him, the Atlanta Falcons' organization, bought for him his own snowplow. That's Atlanta. I guess you don't have to worry about that much.
It
but they
snows there
did
sometimes.
Everything in the world, right, to make it seem like this is it. We are planting our feet with Cousins. And, from the minute he got there, he was looking over his shoulder. And I'm not saying it would have mattered if they hadn't done it. He was up and down. I don't think he was... Somebody has texted he actually has a better winning percentage than Penix did over the last 2 years, which might be true.
Hang the banner.
But it wasn't like they were doing anything. The moral of the story is we like to think these guys are bright. The guys who run teams, they know so much more than we do. And
They're
I guess
supposed to.
They certainly are supposed to. But the whole Cousins episode is an example of they might be making it up as they go along as well. Because there's no way to look upon that as anything other than an abject and abysmal failure from the moment it started.
Anything else that Kevin Seifert said today that caught your eye about exploring all options, but we still don't really know what all those options are going to be because we don't know what they're...
The guy that I think raises the most interesting questions isn't Cousins. He might be the most available, but... it's Kyler Murray. And by the way, I'm not in the camp that is fascinated with him, but I do think you're going to hear a lot about him because allegedly he's going to get cut too, right? Is what people are saying. And what we did explore with Kevin was the question of if you look at these quarterbacks as there's levels of quarterback, which level do you put some of these guys in? In other words, do you have to guarantee Cousins he's going to start? Do you have to guarantee to Kyler Murray he's going to start? I guess my answer would be in a perfect world you wouldn't, because I don't think either of them are coming from a strong enough place right now to hold the cards. On the other hand, if they have options and the other team or teams interested in them they say, well, yeah, come here and you're the starter, then that's part of what the reality is that the Vikings are going to have to deal with, right? How committed do they want to be? And in the end, does that actually short-circuit J.J. McCarthy even more than he should be short-circuited? at this point, right? The idea of going forward with him or getting to camp. It's that old deal of what if you get to camp, and I'm not predicting this, McCarthy outplays Cousins or outplays for whatever reason. He works his ass off in the offseason. He puts the training wheels back on.
Base body balance. On
the fundamentals, figures all that stuff out, and he comes to camp and he dominates, and you've already said, well, no, in number 8, I guess, if he comes back here, it'll be number 8. Cousins or Kyler Murray has to be the guy.
Speaking of Kyler Murray, reports are, according to Josh Weinfuss, who covers them for the Cardinals, their GM talk today, Monty Austinfort, said, I've always had good dialogue with Kyler. I'd say it wasn't up to what Kyler wanted. It wasn't up to what any of us wanted last season as a whole. What else did he say? All options are on the table. Conversations about Murray's future take place daily. Sources do say, though, they tell Weinfuss, your guy, that the Cardinals and Kyler Murray have not spoken since the season ended. The GM and the quarterback have not spoken. They have to decide in the next couple of weeks if they're going to pick up the 5th-year option, as I think you talked about with Seifert, or not. So, anyway, he could be available. That's the deal.
Meanwhile, Indiana's House of Representatives has voted 95-4 to advance a bill that would finance a potential domed stadium for the Chicago Bears.
Excuse me?
I think I read that Thursday's a key day, that if Illinois is going to, move a little bit, it's going to be on the basis of either some legislation being voted on or some meetings that might open the door, and that we might know by the end of this week, there's a much better chance that we know exactly whether the Bears are going to become the Chicago Bears of Hammond, Indiana. Still wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, let's do this. Let's pause. And we'll get to some texts that have come in throughout today's program. I got a couple of A-section stories that I want to discuss, including one of them in which our guy Chris Maddle is quoted rather heavily, and who knows what else on the agenda between now and 6:30 here on The Fan. Addressed, at least briefly towards the end of the show, some of the violence that's going on in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta especially, after a, huge narco bad guy was taken or killed. Did we kill him? I can't remember. I think we did, or did we just capture him? We'll double check. But what I do know is the blowback was pretty, shall we say, strong and over the top. Some buildings being burned. A lot of people unable, like a lot of tourists from the United States, unable to get out of the country. The airport kind of a mess and so forth. This falls under the classification, I think, of the kind of tweet that you better be right about it, because in this case it's a U.S. senator. Bernie Moreno writes, there are troubling reports coming out of Puerto Vallarta and other parts of Mexico that narco-terrorists are hunting down American citizens. The drug cartel should be aware that if any American citizen is harmed in Mexico, there will be a violent and terminal retribution from the U.S. Any USMCA negotiations should cease until this situation is resolved. And a number of people have responded with, there's absolutely no evidence that what he is saying is true. Not happening in real life. It's certainly not an ideal situation, but it's not anything like he described. And you'd like to think, again, somebody in a position of authority, this isn't just some random tweeter, right? Somebody in a position of authority, whatever flexing he wants to do about, threatening and we're watching you, wouldn't you want to be a little bit more responsible about what you send out and the message that it conveys, that people are being hunted down in the streets, because I don't think that there's a lot of, it's not good. It's not healthy. It's potentially dangerous. But I think everything I've read is you're more likely to have been caught in a crossfire, right? Where you're not the target necessarily in this case, but you get caught up in it.
The New Generation cartel went on a violent rampage Sunday after the Mexican military killed their chieftain.
They did kill him. Okay, yeah.
Nemesio El Mencho Osiguera.
The nickname is El Mencho?
El Mencho.
What does that mean? I should know. I'm Spanish and I don't know. El Mencho.
I'm going to translate this.
El Mencho. El Mencho.
Come on, Google Translate.
Not doing a good job?
I know L is the.
Well, yeah.
So let's
Thank you.
Let's get to the second part here.
El Mencho.
What is going on here?
Can't get it? Well, we'll get it maybe later. Where were we here? Oh, did you see the report yesterday? I'm very confused. I'm going to need some help here. Speaking of word salad and translation. So Tim O'Malley, former FBI agent, who had been given the job of figuring out where in the state of Minnesota, we dropped the ball regarding any of a series of fraud cases, right? Starting with, but not ending with, feeding our future.
This isn't helpful. The Mencho?
That doesn't help at all.
Come on, Google. Is it just a mensch?
No, I don't think so. Tim O'Malley is his name. And here's my first point of confusion. I thought, like a lot of people, that when the governor introduced him, he was supposed to be our new fraud czar. You know, we like that term, the czar term, C-Z-A-R. I thought that's what his job was going to be. And so the assumption is you're taking on this job for more than a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, right? That you're going to dig deep and try to, get to the bottom of this stuff and come up with a series of recommendations that might be helpful. Now we come to find out he's done. He's filed his 57-page report and he's out of here. He's out of Dodge. And it turns out his actual title was Director of Program Integrity. Speaking of word salad, that doesn't do much for me either. And he laid out a bunch of ideas about what needs to be done. His claims are that the warning signs have been in place for decades, although obviously the problem has gotten much worse as the programs have broadened and have increased in size and scope in the last, 8 years, 6 years, 5 years, in that period of time. And here's his key quote. It's going to take everybody in the executive branch and the legislative branch to take responsibility for failures in the past. And already I thought I read either yesterday or was it already earlier today, that one bill had already been, for one big-time job to deal with it, didn't even make it out of committee. So if what he's saying is you got to have the executive branch and the legislative branch work together, dead on arrival. I mean, we already know the answer to that question. There's the situation is so polarized that we're probably not going to get, I would say, pretty much anywhere. But I'm confused by that. I'm confused by what we talked about a couple days ago. This new Department of Human Services report, in which almost everything is redacted, which has led a couple of senators and reps to say on the state level, lefties and righties, to say, well, I don't know what we're going to do with this because they're not going to let us read any of it. Allegedly, they have reasons for that. So I didn't think that was particularly good news. If your whole idea is, are there signs that we're taking this seriously as a state? Not just politically speaking, but legislatively and in the executive branch? The answer is a lot of flowery words have been uttered and offered up. But so far, I don't think we have really all that much reason to feel confident that anything is going to change in a substantive way. Also, our guy, Lou Raguse, you're familiar with Raguse?
Love Vergoose. Friend, rival.
A little of both, right? He sent this tweet out several days ago. This was about fraud at the autism centers, and I think this was related to the DHS report that we were referring to, where I'm shocked this wasn't redacted. But some details that he distilled from that story. Listen to this. State workers were not legally allowed to make unannounced site visits because the autism centers were not required to be licensed. That sounds ideal.
Yeah, right.
Now that licensing is required, only 6 of the 500, I repeat, only 6 of the 500 autism centers have applied so far. What are we doing?
Well, we've had some stuff going on. There's been some snowstorms.
Yeah, okay.
There's hard commutes.
Not like New York.
No, I know. The pictures are unbelievable.
I read that Fall River, Massachusetts got 41 inches of snow. Is that possible? Or is that one of those made-up weather terrorist
Well, here's
numbers?
the problem. Because of, like, AI, like, people are sending out pictures of their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Somebody had their garage door up, and the snow
was up to the top of it?
It basically looked like the Titanic, movie when Leo's
Was it real? Or was
That's
it AI?
why I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
You think it looks real. Why would anybody lie about it?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
How about this nugget? Anyone over 18 with some online training can be a level 3 autism provider offering, quote, medical services.
Hey, I'm a man of the cloth thanks to Universal Life Church.
Now, that's true.
I can marry people.
I don't have any. As each day goes by, if you get beyond the platitudes and the words of condemnation and we got to get better and this has been a problem, I think we're overwhelmed by it. I don't think we have. And it sounds like part of it is we don't have the people in place to do it. Even if there was a better system in place that had greater interest in following this story, because the truth is, in this state, the state did not want to follow this story. They were not all that interested in this story. They were afraid, as Andy Luger and others have told us, to follow this story. There are going to be charges of racism. And there were a number of politicians in positions of authority who discouraged those folks who wanted to follow this story and made it sound like you got some other agenda if you want to follow this story. We're going nowhere. I don't think there's any reason to believe, other than, I guess, we are allegedly out of desperation and out of for survival reasons, when stuff comes to our attention, we are getting tougher about that now. But in terms of having anything long-term in place that we can feel confident that we're in a much better place, given the amount of money we're talking about here, I don't see any sign that it's going to get any better. And there's no sign that the two sides are going to work together in St. Paul. I don't think there's any reason to think that they would. I've got one other A-section item I want to get to, and we'll also get to some texts. I do have a couple thoughts about the State of the Union address tonight, which is scheduled for this evening.
Rumors are it's going to go over 2 hours.
He pretty much warned it.
Yeah.
He pretty much said that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the Bill Clinton record? Clinton's got the record.
Does he?
Trump's last year was very long.
It was,
but
yeah.
it wasn't Clintonian in length. That's still think the all-time record. And of course, once upon a time, the State of the Union address might be 8 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, 8 minutes. Sometimes less. Sometimes a little bit more. And there's some thoughts there worthy of getting into it. Booth at KFAN.com. That is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Stay tuned. El Mencho doesn't really mean anything. It's just a common nickname for guys with the first name Nemesio. That's what a couple people are saying, like Chuck for Charles.
Oh, good to know.
So it's not very grandiose for a big-time drug kingpin, I would say, right? But apparently that's what a number of people are suggesting. By the way, we have some time to play here a little bit, so I don't think we've spent a minute on alleged. We don't know if it's a kidnapping. We don't know exactly what's happened to the woman from the Today Show? Who's
Savannah Guthrie's
mom. We're now, is it 3 weeks into this story?
Yeah, at least.
And it's the damnedest thing we've ever seen. The reward is up to $1 million. You know who I need to reach out to, who's been working on that story, at least the last several days, is Randy Kay, who we have not had on in forever.
You're right.
I should reach out to her. I'll be honest with you. I think in the evening, where CNN, sort of covers a lot of different stories, I do think, frankly, and I don't want to minimize the tragedy here potentially. It's a horrific story. But I do feel like there's been almost too much coverage of it when you factor in all the other things that are going on. And it goes back to, it's a famous name, right? It's a TV name.
Yeah.
And there's been some debate about that. And I don't know what the right answer is, because everybody, people do seem interested because they get invested in these shows. So, and so to that extent, it's a high profile kidnapping.
Well, yes. And I would think, you don't want to make the assumption,
yes.
But it's the mom, Nancy, was targeted because of Savannah, right? I mean,
no question. That's the assumption. Yes, that's exactly right.
Otherwise, it's the most crazy coincidence of all time.
And what does that mean? And what does that mean? I mean, now they've got new video indicating new door. Is it door? Not DoorDash.
Ring cam.
Ring cam video from a different day. Same guy, right? What that means, I don't have any idea. They say the DNA evidence inside the house is minimal at best. And what you're hearing a lot is that the investigation locally was not well handled in the proverbial first 24 hours. That it's, that's on these cases, that's often essential. And the first 24 to 48 hours, not a textbook approach, I guess. I have heard some law enforcement people say that either on or off the record, but it's a strange story. There's no question about that. And right now, I mean, it's one of those stories where maybe something breaks at any minute, right? Or somebody confesses.
You would think, yeah.
But the further we get away from it, it feels like the less we seem to know or even to learn. Your guy, Paul Bloom, Fairness in Ragoose Act. I want to give Bloom a minute or two, too, because, he gets very bitter when we talk too much about Ragoose, right? So
he does in a playful manner.
In a playful manner.
Yes, they are friendly rivals.
I'm half kidding. I'm half serious. Let me see if I can find the Bloom tweet.
State of the Union last year, by the way, was the record at 1 hour, 39 minutes, 32 seconds.
I apologize.
The previous mark was Bill Clinton in 2000 that lasted 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 49 seconds. So he already
beat it last year.
According to the USA Today.
Okay, fair enough. This is Bloom from, let's see which day this was. Hold on a second. I could have sworn. Oh, I know. I'm looking for the thread. That's the problem. I don't see it. Well, guess what? I'll have to look elsewhere. I could have sworn it was Bloom. I don't think it was Ragoose, but now I cannot find the... Oh, here it is. This is from yesterday. Contempt times 2. Here we go again. Another Minnesota federal judge finds the administration in civil contempt. This time it is a Trump-appointed judge, Eric Tostrad, says the DHS blatantly violated a do not transfer and habeas release order. The administration owes the immigrant his $568 airline tickets as well. That's a good entree into where I wanted to go next. I don't know if you happen to see, New York Times had a story from, what's the date today? Today's the 24th, so 3 days ago. So this, I think, might have been a Sunday Times story. And it's almost like they were listening to the show, because the premise of this piece is, well, I'll read you the headline. Minnesota Republicans were bullish. Then came the immigration crackdown. A fraud scandal had Democrats on the defensive and led Governor Tim Walz to end his re-election bid, but the ICE surge upended the political landscape. This is exactly what we were talking about. 2 weeks ago, I got a text. This was before the surge had slowed, and the Metro surge thing. And the text was, well, what the Democrats are doing, what Walz is doing, talking about the tactics that are being used here, is it's just their way to distract, change the subject from all of the fraud scandals. Starting, of course, with Feeding Our Future, and now we got autism. You almost need a scorecard for all the fraud scandals. And if you recall, what I said at the time is that it's just the opposite. That the surge approach, the reckless, criminal at times, certainly illegal approach that ICE took here during the surge is what changed the subject. And that's why Republicans, righties, should be bitter about that approach if you just want to think about it politically and not morally. I say it's the exact opposite of what the accusation was. If ICE comes in, quote unquote, responsibly, in a more targeted fashion, doesn't end up with anybody dead, then probably the subject would continue to be these fraud scandals. But what changed everything politically was the ham-handed, aggressive, over-the-top approach here that reached such a scale that even the president decided, I gotta go send in my rescue guy, Tom Homan, to try to settle the thing down. The money quote from this New York Times piece is from our guy, Chris Mantle. If wrecking the GOP brand in Minnesota was the Trump administration's actual assignment, then A+, 10 out of 10 execution, Madel said. Ding, ding, ding. He's exactly right. It's that same point that the ones who lose or have lost more than anybody in this state, if it matters at this point in the metro area, if there are any Republicans left, are the Republicans. It's the righties. It's the sharks who should be livid because that made it easy to change the subject. If you go over the top in your approach and you are as reckless as ICE was, then it's easy for the subject to be changed to something else. Now, we may look back on this and say, on the other hand, the Homan approach, when Homan got here, certainly at the very least, the rhetoric moderated. We can argue about tactics, but even that, I think, we're seeing withdrawal of a number of individuals, of ICE agents. It may now turn it back because now we are hearing more, now that there's not day-to-day combat in the streets and day-to-day confrontation that tended to be the stories that were being covered every day. Now it may well go in time where it's going to be back more about, what we were just talking about earlier. But I thought the story did a good job, and Mantle crystallized it perfectly that the conspiracy theorists out there have wanted to say, the governor's talking about this stuff because he doesn't want to talk about fraud anymore. And by the way, he doesn't. And he's vulnerable on the issue. There's no question about that. But if you're being practical about it, and I think being honest, you'd say, well, we could have kept the Democrats on the run on this subject all the way up to the election if we had taken a more professional approach when we were here. And that's going to be, in the end, I think that's going to be a very insignificant part of the story. Because, in effect, Mantle, a Republican, is right. If your goal is to wreck the GOP brand in Minnesota, then the Trump administration nailed it. They did exactly that with the approach that they took. 64686, that is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. If ICE would have had support from Minnesota law enforcement like all the red states, there wouldn't have been any issues. I don't think you know this state very well if you say that, and I think you're also not fairly representing exactly how many more agents were brought in here than any place else. And there's been a lot of discussion. There was a whistleblower who said, basically, if you look at the training tactics, they were completely bastardized. That in terms of ICE agents, the amount of time that they're trained, the rules that were supposedly to be implemented about what they're supposed to learn about, that a lot of corners were cut. I don't doubt that that's probably true, but I'm here to tell you, I don't think it would have mattered, because I don't think, as I said, from the moment Trump's ICE brigade came in here, they did exactly what they thought the President of the United States wanted them to do. Rattle the cages of this state that gives him too much heat, a governor he doesn't like, etc. So I think it's a distinction without a difference. I'm not defending the policy changes. It's not a good look, and it probably made many of these ICE agents less prepared or capable of showing any level of professionalism. But I think the mandate was very, very clear. And ultimately, they left, relatively speaking, with their tail between their legs. They lost that political fight. That's why the president, in effect, said to Holman, fix it for me. And I don't think Holman's here any longer, but he was here long enough, right, to apparently make a number of changes. So I think that's also a big part of it. And again, another, you could say, sidebar related to this story, another negative effect of the surge is what? Speaking of support for Minnesota law enforcement, what's left of the U.S. Attorney's Office? It's been gutted.
Not much.
It's been gutted like the Twins bullpen, with a lot more at stake.
Right.
I might add. And again, what did those individuals, those attorneys, what was their specialty?
Recently, it's been fraud.
Fraud. They're the ones who, beyond the videos, and they continue to nail these cases. Well, they continue. They're gone now. But that's, again, if you're just thinking of this strategically as a righty, as a shark, you're going, well, we lose there too. If we think the fraud stuff is that important, we had people in place who knew the cases, they knew the stories. And by the way, they told us, Joe Thompson said, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more that we're going to have a chance to try to get to here to hold the right people accountable. How is that a win if you're a shark? It may, you may feel good about we knocked some heads and we made it, but in the end, again, politically you lose, and even in terms of the fraud stuff, yeah, I know they're farming people in from the feds, but they're coming in without the background of the people who've been working in that office and have developed these cases and were the only reason that we knew about the fraud in the first place. So not a lot of that makes a lot of sense to me. You're totally unlistenable when you get on the Trump rants. Shut your damn yap. I'd say respectfully to Yap Guy, did you listen to the specifics of what I said? Did you listen to the quote from Chris Mattel, a Republican? I'm just asking you, if you don't want to talk about the morality of it, what did you, as a member of the Shark Party, gain by this whole entire enterprise? Do you think you put yourself in a better position politically, the way it stands? Didn't you lose a lot more than you gained? So I get it, more TDS, more Trump derangement. Let's go beyond the labels. Let's talk about the specifics of what I'm laying out. And you go, I would think, again, if you're at all reasonable about it, even if you're a militant about when it comes to the issue of illegal immigration, you'd say, yeah, this hasn't exactly. I mean, you want to talk about unintended consequences? I mean, we kidded with Chris in here that did you play your cards too hard? I had no problem with the pushing and the pressure that was being put on the governor. He deserved it. He should be vulnerable on this particular, on the fraud issue. 100%. But then the question was, do you decide how hard you want to push? Because once you get him to do what he did, which is, I'm not going to run for re-election, what did you effectively do? You handed the governor the next governor's race to Amy Klobuchar. Once it became clear that she was going to be the person. That doesn't excuse the fraud stuff. We've talked plenty of fraud on this show. We talked about it earlier in the program. I have no confidence. Let me repeat this. Zero confidence in this administration when it comes to this issue, especially when we've learned all the things we have learned over certainly the last 6 months. Zero. Now they're forced to say what they're saying, but I still don't have any faith that they're capable of doing anything about it. So I'm thinking you got a great issue there, man. And it could have continued to be the issue the last 6 weeks as well. And if anybody if there was any sidetrack to it, it was because of the approach that ICE took. None of that matters to POTUS. He's on the revenge tour. Say the Union. I have come to agree with the latest Bill Maher position on the State of the Union speech. Let's get rid of it. Let's eliminate it. And I felt this way through the last, at least, both the Democratic and Republican presidents. I like tradition as much as the next guy. I really do. I think there's something to be said for all of it. Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States. It's arousing.
It's great.
But
tradition.
It's become, again, even by political standards, so performative that I don't know that it serves any useful purpose. I really don't. I come away from it going, if you watch it, you're almost as watching it as almost like as a game, another Olympic sport, but not that interesting. We all know what's going to happen tonight, and as Mara reminds us, this became a bigger tradition in terms of length of speech and grandiosity of the speech more recently than you think. And if you go back in our history, like I said, there's like 8-minute ones, 11-minute ones, I think. And it wasn't even viewed as attempting to do what it now is, which is, I think, just pure performance at this point. There's a bunch of Democrats who said, they're not going to show, right?
Yep.
That's fine. Again, I think you're better off showing, but I can't blame the Supreme Court members if they don't want to show because they're going to get bludgeoned. But I don't. Do we? Here's the question: if you watch it mainly to record how many times you will wince and go, "Oh God, really?" Then does it serve any useful purpose at that point? I mean, we all know that there's not going to be any sort of. There's not even anything I think that both sides are going to applaud. So maybe that's the answer. Just we not get rid of it. Maybe just suspend it for a few times. Say, let's see if we can get to the other side of sanity. Once the NBA head coaches start wearing suits on the sidelines,
right,
as the first sign of decorum returning to our culture,
and we become a proper nation,
then we say, okay, let's bring it back now. Now there's a chance everybody's going to show up. And we might actually all be able to applaud for some stuff and et cetera, but I just don't think that that's likely to happen at this point. State of the Union. Where was the shut your yap? What happened to the Constitution, specifically the First Amendment, that the Sharks claim to hold so near and dear? That's Grant from Maple Grove. Well, that's the way it works. Unfortunately, that's the deal we're in. We have people on either side of the aisle who are very capable of saying, shut your yap, if you're not repeating exactly what you believe, or that they believe that you need to endorse. Dan, I didn't listen to anything you said, but I vehemently disagree with every point you made. Do better. Yeah, that's it.
Do better, Charlotte.
I'm going to try to do better. I'll tell you what, let's make this a top of the hour pause. I got a couple of other toy department items to get to, and who knows what else between now and when we wrap it up at 6:30. Big basketball night tonight on the Fan. First, Golden Gopher men's basketball at the University of Michigan, and then presumably picked up in progress Wolves at Portland. And, of course, you can hear all of the Wolves action forever and ever, start to finish, on the Timberwolves channel as well. This is helpful. More Lou Ragoose 9 minutes ago. Federal judge tosses gang member gun case after Minnesota's U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen can't get the case to trial on time. This is the second criminal case to get dismissed in recent weeks. Extremely rare for that office. Gee, I wonder what's changed in that office the last several weeks. No idea. Dan, the State of the Union address is literally in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 3. I will take Texter guy at his word there, 218 guy. But I don't think there's anything that mandates it must go on for 4 days. You can get in, you can get out. It doesn't have to be as much of a political speech as it is. I think you can do it any way you want.
Yeah.
You can do it in 5 minutes if you want to. Has anybody ever done it? You know how like they do it is if the House of Commons, what part of the British government is it where the leader gets up and the prime minister gets up and he or she just gets, as he's speaking, gets hooted and howled at, but then don't they get to ask him questions too?
Yeah, it's so weird. I remember talking about this when I worked on the Paul Allen project because he stumbled upon it one day and I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I know there's a lot of yelling, but then the yelling ceases very quickly.
Yeah, it does. Yelling,
like they yell for a minute and they sit down.
It's less offensive for some reason.
It's strange, unless I'm forgetting how it actually went. But that's my recollection. Well, sometimes that does happen.
Here, is there any possibility, knowing his sense of theater and the dramatic, that during the speech the president announces, and right now there are bombers in the air headed. They have already taken out several government entities and buildings in Iran. We're still talking about this huge buildup. There's a lot of discussion that, we're not sure what we're going to do. We'll see what we're going to do. It depends on negotiations. But knowing him, how he likes to, up the ante, what are the chances that he announces, we already did some damage? I wouldn't put anything past him. This is from 612 guy. I voted for Trump and agree completely with your assessment of the impact of the surge. I prefer it didn't happen and we were still focused on the fraud. What's the phrase? Stole defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We had Kevin Sievert on earlier from Indianapolis. The combine has begun. KOC met the Jackals today. Rob Brzezinski met the Jackals today. I want you to as a person who's, likes to think he's very close to the people of Minnesota.
I'm one of us.
And you are one of us. Give me your sense of the level of interest if indeed the veteran quarterback we bring back is Kirk Cousins.
You mean are people on board with that?
Yeah. Are they going to be thrilled? Are they going to be, that might be the best we can do? Are they going to be, no, I don't want any part of them?
What's interesting is I think the only more polarizing quarterback option than J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings fans, I think, is Kirk Cousins. Because Kirk was polarizing while he was here, too.
He was.
A little bit.
In more of his prime.
Yeah, so as you're hitting me with that, I think the opinions are going to be all over the map on that. So I'm trying to think. For me, but also there's the amendment or the notation. Is he coming back to be the backup? Is he coming back to be the starter? It sounds like they're done with J.J. McCarthy. Doesn't it? It just sounds like they're completely out on him. Even though they're not completely out on him, they won't say that. It just seems like the mood has completely soured internally on what's going on with J.J. Brzezinski, I think, today tried to soften it a little bit more, and KOC is always going to soften things by saying there was a lot of unfortunate things that happened around him with the injuries and not being able to play and all of those things. But the mood of Cousins, I would say most people would kind of shrug and say, well, yeah, I might as well. He knows the system. He knows KOC. He knows the neighborhood. Let's see if he's got anything left. But I don't know.
My sense is more people are going to be bored with it than are excited by it, even if they are realistic enough to know, well, this might be the best that we can do. But I
don't know if excitement will exist for anybody. I think it's almost like resignation.
There'd be excitement for A-Raj. He still hasn't committed to Pittsburgh.
No, I was talking about by any fans.
Oh, well,
if Cousins came,
right?
Not the quarterback. The excitement for anybody. I meant like the fans wouldn't be excited.
Oh, I see. Okay.
A-Raj. I would if A-Raj was on the table, I would definitely try.
I think it's for a lot of people. It may not even be fair to Cousins. It's we've been there. We've seen the sameness of it. It'll all come back. That's great. And we know what he's going to say and how he's going to sound. And the Kirk O'Chains thing, we kind of did that. And now here we are back again, tail between our legs, admitting that we can't do it the way the best teams in the division do it. And we have to hedge our bets and bring some aging veteran back just in case the quarterback of the future is just not going to be good enough.
It's my life.
Yeah.
It's my life as a Vikings fan. It's what we've done.
By the way, I think I'm being reminded that one of the things that Marr said was you don't have to give the speech. You can just write a paper. Hand the paper in to the House and Senate. You have to, one way or another, inform Congress on the State of the Union from time to time, but
it could be a written exam.
It could be absolutely. You do not have to necessarily give a speech, and you don't have to give a speech that takes as long as the one is expected to tonight. Because my guess is it's going to be full attack mode tonight. Don't you think?
Yes.
I'll be shocked if now. The betting money early is, all right, he knows that he's got to get the subject back to the economy, and here's the 5 steps I'm going to take to get us on the right path for the economy, even though he already told us that the tariffs were saving us. So, that's where discipline comes in, because from a discipline standpoint, that's what he should do. But I just don't think he can help himself. And frankly, I think there's several presidents that have been unable to help themselves in that situation. It ends up being a very self-serving kind of a thing. The only thing that could wash the horrible taste out of Vikings fan smells would be landing Joe Burrow or someone of his high standing. Well, that makes it easy.
Burrow
Obviously,
makes
it
epic.
easy.
That would be so epic.
I think there'd be a prohibitive nature to what you'd have to give up there. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I even think, who's the Packer backup we've talked about?
Malik Willis.
He actually, people, even though they don't know him as well as they do Cousins, would be more intrigued by because he's not spoiled, right? It's not like we've done that and we're back to it. It would be, you know what? He's looked good in a supportive role in Green Bay. It looks like he's got a chance. Somebody's just got to give him a chance. Doesn't mean he'll end up being great, but I think that would be accepted more because it's a fresher face.
And he's going to get a bag, it sounds like.
It sounds like he's going to get, that's it, yeah. And then you're back to, can you afford to spend that kind of money? I don't know.
What I need to think about more or look into more is, it's stunning to me how they have all these salary cap gymnastics to jump through again. I thought the last handful of years, the first couple of years of the Quasi experiment was all about unwinding all the stuff, and that was part of the reason why Cousins wasn't here. And I know they made a bunch of free agent signings last year and spent a bunch of money, and partially because they didn't draft well, so they had to do it. The last couple of years, they put a lot of money back on the books. And I know Brzezinski's the greatest capologist ever, but I can't believe that this quickly, after having a bunch of money to spend, we're already back to these big numbers. And I know JJ's contract, talking about Jefferson, has something to do with that now because that's jumped up. But that's what's wild to me, is that they spent all that time trying to right-size the payroll, and now it's back to where they've got to do some gymnastics to get things under control again. That's troubling.
It is. They're I think we talked to Seifert about this. They're 42 million, I think, over the cap, that kind of thing. So it's going to take some work, although that is his specialty.
He's great at it, apparently.
So maybe you have an advantage there because you can say, well, he's been here all along, but now he's in more of a position of authority. where, I'm sure he can make moves that he otherwise didn't feel he could make because he wasn't in charge when Kwesi was still in charge. I don't think this is sincere, but I'll read it. I'm hoping in 2028 we can get a Democratic president back in office so we can reopen the border to the flow of illegal drugs and criminals. Enjoy your sanctuary city.
I don't think he means that.
Do you think that's satiric?
I think that's sarcastic.
It might be sarcastic, too.
It's hard to read the tone.
952 guy, if you're
being facetious.
If you're a faithful listener to this program, you'll know that the official position of this program, going back through several years of the most recent Biden administration, was he had failed miserably at the border. I think you can be a Democrat and believe that. Now, maybe you can't. Maybe you got to be too politically correct to say it. But if you think you're going to hurt my feelings with how things were opened up at the border, no, I'm with you. You're not hurting my feelings at all. It's a significant issue. Smart Democrats knew it was a significant issue. And quite frankly, it's one of the reasons that Biden, among others, had no chance to be reelected. And that goes back to where my anger, and the Democrats don't like when I say this, and they get mad at me when, well, you should be mad at him, not mad at us. And I say, no. I am mad at you. I most assuredly am mad at the Jets because you opened the door by blindly closing your eyes to the significance of this issue at the border. And it handed a significant political issue to the opponent, thereby making it easier that he had a second term in the first place. Yes, you should be furious with yourselves on that. So everybody needs to look in the mirror, man. I think that's the moral of the story. Let's come back, wrap things up, and remind you about what we have coming up tomorrow.
Show Wrap, presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washers since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper Show Wrap.
KOC takes his dressing on the side. Word salad served with salmon pan-fried. Couldn't savor every bite, though he tried. Wolves in 5. It's a long way to get there, but he got there. Very well done. I want to thank
pan-fried fish sounds good.
I'm
right
with
now.
you on that.
I'm not going to lie. I had some the other night.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it. It feels like a responsible form of frying, right?
Yes.
Where it's not quite as thick.
Yeah.
Where you go, it's still decadent.
Yeah.
But it's lighter, right?
Yes.
I want to thank our outstanding array of guests today that included Kevin Seifert from the Combine in Indianapolis, Indiana, and Luigi from Florida, celebrating another pending Hall of Fame induction, this time the Minnesota, the MS, what do we call it? The MSHSL Hall of Fame.
You know how you know you're in too many Halls of Fame? You're relieved when you're not really needed for anything at the ceremony.
He did make that point, didn't he? He said, he's already given his speech.
You don't have to do anything. Yeah. I got to drum up the old speech again.
And, of course, that's the Minnesota State High School League, for those who don't pay attention to those things. Louis joined us at 3:30. Some leftover Olympic stuff, some Minnesota Wild stuff. And we got some great... the challenge with Louis is we've had him on for so many years, so often. Is there anything left that we didn't know? And I think this was newer. When I talked to Louis about NBA coaches wearing suits again, the idea of Pat Riley, he gave us a little bit of background about why he thinks dressing up is important and how he became influenced very much by his father, the butcher, who dressed probably not in a suit during the day, but wiped the blood off when he came home, washed up, put a suit on, came down to the dinner table. And then took a walk.
Went for a walk after dinner.
Yeah, it's good stuff from Louis.
Sounds nice.
Fan on Demand tonight. And then we've got, it's a kind of a basketball doubleheader, one could say, on the Fan. We've got Gopher men's basketball at Michigan. That's a tough one. And that will take us into Wolves Blazers in Portland. That game can be heard in its entirety on the Timberwolves channel, but will be available eventually on FM 100.3 as soon as the Gopher-Michigan game is over, unless Mike Grimm decides to go long on the postgame, which he's been known to do.
No, he's the anti-fullness.
Oh, is that true?
Yes, especially on the road.
Gets in, get out? Okay.
You've got a plane to catch.
Yeah.
And you've got to get out of there. I know the feeling. I've been there.
You want to talk about pressure getting on a plane? How about working at the Indiana Daily Student, Dateline, East Lansing, Michigan, a Tuesday night game, and I'm going with the team. I'm on the team plane. They ain't gonna wait for me, so I basically had to write that the story during the game and add like a little bit of a topping, a little bit of an ending. Now the beauty of it that year is they were undefeated. So you pretty much knew they were going to win.
You could write
so you
that
could sort
part.
of write it beforehand.
The Hoosiers won again.
That's pressure. When you're not an official member of the party, you work for the Daily Dissident, as Knight said, and he was not gonna. They were not going to hold the bus that was going to take us to the airport any extra minutes because, Coach, I got 10 more minutes before this deadline. Will you let me just play with the story a little bit? No, wasn't going to work.
That's why you were trained.
That's pressure. That's true. Very much the case. Tomorrow, Alec Lewis from the Combine and Pat Kessler from the planet Mars. That's a combination tomorrow. Enjoy the evening. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the great time. We love you, Dan.